Hello, and welcome to Qualitative Methods in Environmental Studies. My name is Charlotte Lombardo, and I will be your instructor for this term. And I will be joined by our teaching assistants, Nada Hassan and Moshin Alavi. We are looking very forward to exploring the richness of qualitative research together. Because our time together in this term will be completely virtual, I will be providing short video lectures for each course session, covering required course material. So we will meet in real time via Zoom every Monday at 11:30 for about an hour. But before then, you should watch the recorded video lecture, which I will post each Wednesday, and which will cover material that will prepare us for the Monday Zoom lecture. So the video lecture will address core concepts, course material, and learning objectives, while the Zoom sessions will typically involve more interactive activities and illustrations that will further engage with the concepts and allow you space to interact and ask questions. So you do need to watch both the recorded videos and attend the live Zoom sessions because these will cover different things and they will be different. So in this video, I am going to start us off with an introduction to qualitative research. Some of you may have some familiarity with qualitative research approaches and methods, and for others, these perspectives may be quite new. We will start with some foundations and philosophical approaches, and then as we move through the term, we'll get more and more practical with applying these methods, and you will get a chance to do your own piece of qualitative research. So let's start off with the fact that this is a methods course that seeks to provide training in how to conduct a particular form of research. So what is research? In what ways and for what reasons do we wish to engage in research? Well, at its most basic, research is the process of investigating something systematically. And we wish to do this to engage in a process of investigation in a systematic way in order to provide reliable answers to important questions. Answers that we can defend, that we need evidence for, and that can help us make important and informed decisions. So why is investigating something systematically so foundational to the concept of research? Well, because we want to be able to rely on and trust research findings, and particularly and especially if we wish to use these findings to make important decisions. So let's take the example of the US election in 2016. As we now know, the pollsters who were attempting to use research to predict who would win the election got it seriously wrong. Just before the election, based on the latest polls, the New York Times predicted with 80% certainty that Hillary Clinton would win on election day. But of course, the 2016 election day came with the shock to many that Donald Trump had received the most electoral college votes and was elected president. So how did the pollsters get it so wrong? That has been the focus of much analysis and debate, but fundamentally it comes down to the fact that they were not systematic. Although they attempted to use techniques to accurately get perspectives and intentions from across the diverse US population, it seems they were missing a large representation of people. Maybe the pollsters were operating in a kind of echo chamber. Maybe this was complicated by people not wanting to admit that they planned to vote for Donald Trump. But clearly these researchers did not systematically investigate the question because most of them got it wrong. So it's important to do research well and systematically. In this course, we will learn how to do a particular form of systematic investigation using qualitative research methodology. But what is qualitative research and how does it differ from quantitative research? Qualitative and quantitative research paradigms are both very important and valid forms of research, which approach research in a systematic way, but which do so through different viewpoints and ultimately are used to ask and answer different types of questions. Quantitative research is concerned primarily with the number and size of a phenomenon, often asking questions like how many, how much, and if we do X, what is the resulting amount of change and why? Quantitative research seeks to determine things like scale, effectiveness, and causality, often using methods like surveys and experiments. As its name suggests, quantitative research seeks to quantify and analyze using numbers, often expressing results in the form of statistics. This may be what you think about most often when you think about the concept of research. Qualitative research, on the other hand, is more interested in what and why questions. Instead of attempting to get answers across large numbers of people, qualitative research investigates a question very deeply with a small group of people using methods like observations and interviews. Qualitative research analyzes words rather than numbers to deeply explore and unpack a question or phenomenon. This can be powerful for answering questions or exploring experiences that cannot be quantified. As Albert Einstein has been quoted as saying, "Not everything that counts can be counted." Coming back to the election context example, numbers can tell us how many people voted for a candidate, but they're not very good at telling us why. We might get some sense of why from the numbers, but speaking in depth and at length with people using methods like interviews will provide much more nuance, context, and diversity to answering the why question. As its name implies, qualitative research seeks to qualify. So qualitative research, at its most basic, can be defined as using words to describe things. It is a systematic approach to understanding actions and meanings in their social context. And this notion of context is very important and central to qualitative methodologies. Qualitative methods are very interested in the nuances of people's lived experience. Rather than seeking to generalize across large groups, qualitative research seeks to deeply understand subjective experiences and perspectives, and to describe these in depth in order to build theory that speaks to these experiences and the contexts in which they occur. And we do this using methods that are open-ended and exploratory. This focus on people and context is central. Qualitative research studies phenomena in their natural settings to make sense of and interpret the meanings people bring to them. Instead of doing experiments in controlled environments, qualitative methods are embedded in natural and social settings through observation or dialogue with people and communities. With a core interest in how these phenomena are lived and experienced, from this perspective, research is viewed as a situated activity that locates the observer, the researcher in the world. So qualitative methodologies do not believe that the researcher can be unbiased, objective, or neutral. The researcher is part of the world and brings with them their own understandings, backgrounds, knowledges, and influences. The purpose of these explorations is to engage in open-ended and exploratory theory building. Qualitative research consists of a set of interpretive practices that make the world visible through a series of representations. Using interpretive frameworks that seek to address the meaning individuals or groups ascribe to the question or social problem, and an emergent approach to establish patterns or themes. And qualitative reporting includes the voices of participants, reflexivity, and a complex description and interpretation of the problem, often with a call for change. This is a lot of big ideas, which we will be exploring and unpacking throughout the rest of the course. But I want to focus in on this value that often drives qualitative practice, which is this notion of a call for change. This week you have an optional reading by Brown, which I really recommend that you do engage with, which highlights qualitative research as a mechanism for action and advocacy, with people, which provides rich opportunity for community building, amplifying voice, gathering stories, and challenging injustice. And for these reasons, qualitative methods are often very interesting and exciting to students like yourselves who are in environmental studies, given the focus on community action, voice, and empowerment, which are of course particularly relevant for addressing complex environmental issues, the kinds of things that you might be interested in addressing like land rights and climate change. So now we've looked at some of the core elements and defining features of qualitative research. So let's get a little bit deeper into some of the underlying theoretical perspectives that inform this approach. And here, we're going to delve into some philosophical foundations and take up concepts of ontology and epistemology. These are big words that I myself still find rather daunting. Essentially, this is about exploring how we see the world and how we know what we know. Anytime we are doing research, we are attempting to know something about the world, and our approach to this knowing will be fundamentally informed by how we see the world and how we believe we come to know knowledge, or how we think knowledge is constructed. Our impressions and assumptions about the nature of knowledge will deeply inform how we conduct our research, what we believe about how to generate knowledge, our epistemologies, the approaches we use, our theories, the procedures we use, our methodologies, the tools we use, our methods, and the sources we seek out to collect our data. These are big ideas. Let's investigate. You have a video in your e-class by the Institute for Development, which unpacks these ideas using the metaphor of an iceberg. Our research methods and methodologies are like the tip of the iceberg, the elements which can be seen and identified as our research. These include our research questions, the way we go about answering these questions, for example, the interviews or fieldwork we do, and the results we put out into the world. But how we do these things, how we do our research, will be inherently based on our beliefs about the nature of knowledge lying below the surface of our work and actions, often as unquestioned assumptions. So, let's talk about the contrasting beliefs of realism and relativism, these contrasting ontologies, to help us capture these concepts. The realist approach is rooted in the idea that there is one external truth, that we can know that objectively, and that we have to look from outside that truth and make measurements and draw conclusions in order to know it. So this is a perspective that really believes that there is one kind of knowledge that we are seeking and that we objectively need to get to that answer. The relativist approach is grounded in an understanding that knowledge is more complicated, that there can be multiple truths or multiple realities, and that what we see as reality is informed by our experiences, our perspectives, our histories, and the broader social forces that shape our lives. This is the understanding of knowledge as being socially constructed. The relativist perspective seeks to uncover realities by understanding the meaning that our participants, or the folks who are experiencing those realities, give to the phenomenon we are studying. So building on these ideas of realism and relativism, qualitative and quantitative research are often expressed theoretically through contrasting epistemologies or paradigms. Positivism takes up the realist perspective of knowledge as objective and externally knowable, and this is the paradigm that underlies quantitative research, with its focus on a deductive approach to formulating and testing hypotheses and seeking to locate and quantify causality between variables. How much changes in X when I do Y? The phenomenological approach takes up the relativist perspective that knowledge is plural and socially constructed, and this is the paradigm that underlies qualitative research, with its focus on an inductive or an emergent approach that focuses on meaning and constructing theories and models about what is happening. So let's explore these concepts in the context of COVID-19. How would each approach investigate the question of who is most impacted by COVID-19? Well, the positivist paradigm, through its realist and quantitative perspective, is well represented in the research numbers we hear reported daily in the statistics and demographics on who is infected. This epidemiological research is very important and helpful for understanding the magnitude of the risk and informing immediate responses to controlling infection. The phenomenological paradigm, on the other hand, with its focus on relativism and qualitative perspectives, would seek to more deeply uncover and explore the experiences of those infected, both those with the infection, but also others affected, such as caregivers of infected people, parents and children affected by school closures, folks who have lost jobs or businesses, and particular impacts related to social inequities. So you can see that both approaches are important and relevant. Both answer key questions in powerful ways, and both can be used to inform response and decision making. But they do so from different perspectives and in different ways. Hopefully this helps to unpack and clarify some of these theoretical foundations and ideas. We can go even further into this theoretical terrain and draw a broader map from post-positivist to postmodern perspectives. Now, I don't want you to get bogged down in all of this. You will not be tested on this specifically, and you're not required to use it in your assignments. But we do want you to have a sense of the broad and rich field of qualitative research and its various theoretical camps. Post-positivism builds on the positivist paradigm, remaining rooted in realism, but is more embracing of qualitative perspectives. While positivism emphasizes quantitative methods, Post-positivism considers both quantitative and qualitative methods to be valid approaches. So if you are more of a realist, you can embrace qualitative research. If, on the other hand, you gravitate more to relativism, interpretivism is rooted in the belief that knowledge is created through interactions and can only be understood through interpretation. If you are particularly focused on issues of power, critical and postmodern perspectives both take up this mantle, explicitly focusing on historical and cultural forces and related power structures. Critical realism takes a more realist perspective, concerned with exposing external forces that create very real power structures. Postmodernism takes a more relativist perspective, exploring social forces and power dynamics as fluid and co-created, and hence challenging more realist or universalist notions of power. Again, these are big, heady ideas which you are not being asked to master. But it is important to get exposure to these theoretical perspectives and foundations. Maybe you will find something in this that intrigues you or speaks to your own worldview. So let's wrap up by exploring these new perspectives through the question on who is most impacted by COVID-19. A post-positivist approach might use qualitative methods to talk to diverse people about their experiences and then aggregate the data to develop theories about who is or who will be most impacted. An interpretive approach would also talk to diverse people about their experiences, but would focus on interpreting and developing theories exploring and explaining interactions and variations in the data. This might focus on similarities and differences between various people and their experiences, and then using these to interpret and make theories about what is happening. While a more critical approach would focus on talking to folks who are experiencing cultural and historical inequities in an effort to expose injustice. In the case of COVID, this could focus in on the fact that COVID is disproportionately affecting people experiencing marginalization, based on issues of equity, in particular race and class. A more postmodern approach would also focus on folks experiencing marginalization, but might more explicitly incorporate discourses related to deconstructing and reimagining power structures. Okay, thanks for sticking with me this far. I think that is quite enough for our first lecture, and I do hope this sets the stage and foundation for our learning together. It's okay if much or all of this is very new to you and may be a bit confusing. Often these are ideas that really need to gel over time. This course is designed to be very applied and practical, to help you learn through doing in order to grasp and apply qualitative concepts, theories, and methods. If you take one thing away from this intro lecture, I hope it is the diverse and unique perspective that qualitative research can bring to your work and to your social actions. And I hope it begins to give you some sense of how you might use these approaches and tools. And remember, you will get a chance in this course to formulate and address your own research questions. You will also get a chance to review and discuss the ideas I've presented here at your first tutorial. Our first class will be Monday, January 11th, and we will have a live Zoom lecture session at 11:30 a.m. that day. You'll get a chance to meet me and the TAs, and you'll also get a chance to ask any questions that come up from this video lecture. And we will also go over the course syllabus and assignments. And then you will also begin that day, or the Tuesday, your tutorial sessions with your TAs. I do want to bring to your attention that you do have an assignment that is due on January 18th. This is an online tutorial that you need to complete and submit the certificate of completion to your TA. We will discuss this during our Zoom session at our first class on January 11th, but I did want to give you a heads up, and you are free to begin this tutorial if you wish, or create the account and go into and log in and begin to explore this assignment. Okay, so thank you very much. I am very pleased to begin this class, and I look very forward to our first session together on January 11th.